Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making some buttery, amazing scones. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 400 Fahrenheit and line a baking sheet with parchment paper. Now, in a large bowl, I'm adding 2.5 cups or 300 grams of all-purpose flour. Okay. I also want a 1/4 cup or 50 grams of granulated sugar. Sprinkle that right in. To puff things up, I'm using 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and for contrast, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. In you go. By the way, these scones are gonna be so soft and fluffy and buttery, but golden and crisp on the outside. They are not those disgusting, horrible, no good, dry rock scones that you get at the various places. I don't know why they sell them. These are gonna be delicious and they're so easy. Grab a whisk. Our scale is done. And we're gonna whisk this together. Whisk, whisk, whisk until everything is nicely distributed. You do not want to have a mouthful of salt or of baking powder. Once it's all mixed, go ahead and grab some ice cold butter. You can even keep your butter in the freezer for like 5 or 10 minutes before this recipe, so it's really hard. You don't want it to just melt and ooze out. That can give you a dry scone. You want it to be really cold so that in the oven, it steams up and puffs up and makes everything amazing. Set this aside. 1/3 cup, that's 76 grams. Super hard. Okay, we're just gonna cube it up into small pieces that are a little bit less than 1 inch. And for this recipe, if you want like the best practice, I guess you would use European style butter. It's higher in butterfat and has less water. I'm using regular American style butter today though. If you're abroad and watching this, you might look at this recipe and say, I know a good scone or scone when I see it. This looks a little different. So an English style scone, which I love and I have a recipe for and there's a video for, is gonna be like a biscuit in America, not an English biscuit. It'll be round, beautiful layers, buttery. You can like pull it open. It's a wonderful vehicle for jam and clotted cream. Oh, so good. This is an American style scone, which is similar in texture. It has a little bit less structure. It's much easier to make, and they're shaped usually like triangles. So there's so many different flavors. I'll talk about the mix-ins in a moment, but think of this as like a blank canvas for deliciousness. They whip up really quickly, and you can add almost anything you like, which is also true of an English style scone. You could have many different things in that. I like them plain. My butter's chopped. I'm gonna set this aside in my fridge while I get the rest of the ingredients together. I don't want this to warm up. That would be not optimal. Now, in a smaller bowl, I'm mixing 3/4 cup or 180 mils of heavy cream. If you're not in the US, it's called double cream, I believe. But you can correct me in the comments if that's wrong. 1 large egg. This could be cold. And a tablespoon of a nice vanilla. It makes all the difference. This is like almost the last of this vintage that I made. I have some more that are brewing in my pantry. It's really fun to make your own vanilla because normal vanilla is made usually with like vodka or some kind of like just straight alcohol spirit. When you make your own, you could use bourbon or dark rum or whatever else to add more flavors to it. And then these vanilla beans, you can just keep adding to them with more and more. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. Anyways, grab your whisk one more time, and we're gonna mix this up until it's nice and smooth. See, unlike an American biscuit, a scone has an egg in it. All right, nice and smooth, and it smells so good. This is all mixed up. I'm gonna place this in the fridge as well because I just don't feel like having a plain scone today. I wanna have something exciting in there. So you can add about 1/2 cup, a little bit more of any mix-in you want. Today, I'm gonna use some dried apricots and pecans that are toasted. That's gonna be really nice. It'll look pretty too, but I have to chop it and nothing can get warm. It has to stay cold. Okay, these dried apricots are really pretty and I love the taste and texture of them. They have like a little bit of a tanginess to them and they're perfectly sweet. If you wanted though, you could use dried or fresh blueberries. You could use dried cherries, any kind of nut that you want. I was tempted to use macadamia nuts today, but I don't know. I save those for like special occasions. Not that videos with you aren't special. I'm just saying like something extraordinary like for those because they're so luxurious. Chop these up into smaller pieces, and if you wanted to use raisins for this, that's fine. I would always soak mine in rum overnight if I'm going to use them. Otherwise, I don't. No, not into it. Giving my pecans just a little bit of an extra chop because they're kind of big pieces. All right. Now we're ready to assemble. Grab your cold butter, plop that in. And now we want to work this butter into pea-sized pieces. You could use a pastry cutter, you could use your hands or a fork to mash it in. I'm gonna go with the pastry cutter today, just because I feel like it. You don't want your butter to be too small though. It's important that you maintain those little lumps because that is the magic to that tender, fluffy, moist, and amazing scone. Okay. Just a few mashes is all it took to get these wonderful pea-sized pieces. Now add your mix-ins if you're using any. You don't have to. Plain is still delicious. I just felt like it today. Give that a toss so everything's nicely distributed. Grab your cream from the fridge, and now we're gonna mix this in just with your fork. Scoot things along so it gets nice and hydrated. This will make a really shaggy, kind of messy mixture, but when it's messy, you know it's gonna be the best. All I wanna see is most of the flour streaks are gone. I'm gonna press this together and then we're gonna chill it for just a little bit too. Any kind of errant dry bits will get some cream soaked into them and hydrate up. Every once in a while, when I'm at a certain chain coffee store and I'm hungry and I decide to get a scone, oh my gosh, every single time I'm like, it looked so good, but why is it so dry? Why did I do this to myself? And you don't have to do this to yourself. You can make these, you can freeze them as well, and then bake them from frozen. So you can have like an on-demand treat in the morning if you want it perfectly fresh. And even if you made these a day or two before, you can just heat them up in the microwave, your toaster oven, your air fryer, your oven, and they are just like new. They're gonna be so good, you'll regret having ever bought one. This mixture is nice and shaggy. There's definitely some dry parts, but work them together with my hand just a little bit. Okay, dump this out onto the surface. You could lightly flour it or not, I don't bother. Oh no, it looks kind of messy. That's actually how it's supposed to look, so don't panic if this happens to you. Gather this mess. It looks like it exploded, but it's totally fine. And we're gonna shape this into a disc and do some pressing. The pressing will make magic happen because you really just need to encourage all those dry bits to become part of the mass. Perfect. Okay, you want this shaped into a 7-inch disc. One of my weaknesses, I have absolutely no idea how to measure distance by eyeball. So my measuring tape tells me this is perfect. Should be fairly thick. If your scone is too thin, it's gonna be dry. You need to have that interior volume so it really can be moist and fluffy inside. Okay. Use your bench scraper or a floured knife, and we're gonna divide this into 8 equal wedges. So just find the center of your circle and press through. Clean your cutting tool off in between cuts so it doesn't start pulling things apart, and you can sprinkle a little flour if necessary too. Once your pieces are cut, first of all, just take a look inside. You can see these beautiful big splotches of butter throughout, as well as all the mix-ins that you chose to add. This, however, needs to freeze up for about 15 minutes, although if you want to prep this out a day ahead or several days ahead, however long you want, this can go into the freezer and you can bake them from frozen. Plop those onto your prepared baking sheet lined with parchment paper, and this goes into the freezer for at least 15 minutes. After chilling, you're gonna brush the scones on top with about a tablespoon of cream. This will give them a nice finish, and so they'll be golden on top, but they'll also be glue to hold some more sugar on. The scones themselves aren't super sweet at all, so it's always nice for anything that is supposed to be a little sweet to have a sprinkling of sugar so the first bite has a bit of crunch and sweetness. Just brush the top with cream, not the sides. Finish your scones off with a sprinkling of coarse sugar. You could use granulated sugar if you don't have any of the extra big crystals. My scones are ready to go into the oven, 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes, or until the tops are a beautiful golden brown. In you go. Let your scones cool in the pan, maybe drizzle with an optional icing, and they're ready to enjoy. That tastes like a hug. It's golden, perfectly sweet, and the outside is crisp as can be, but the inside is a buttery cloud of deliciousness. Oh my gosh, with the mix-ins, it's just about perfection with a cup of coffee. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and if you like this video, check out my breakfast treat playlist.